Hey everyone, I'm Molly O'Brien. Thanks so much for joining us here on GoLocal Live. We are switching things up a little bit. Pop and soul singer Olivia King performed at 2 o'clock her latest single, Top Down, in the Alex and Ani Lounge. And so now we're going to have a sit-down interview with the Warwick native. Olivia King, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you again.
So we're very excited to have you here in the studio and had a great performance. So now we get to talk to you all about what went into making the single. And you recently just released the single with Sony Music. So super exciting. You're an independent artist. You also sang a little bit of Independent Woman. So that was really fun. If you want to see the performance, you can check it out on GoLocal Prov. You can also check it out on all of our social media channels as well. So let's get into the interview. You're a Warwick native. You went to Tollgate High School. You went to University of Rhode Island. And you've been performing music here throughout Rhode Island, as well as performing in clubs in New York and Boston. You performed on The Voice. So you've really had your roots here in Rhode Island, and now you're getting out and performing music for people all over the place. You have a huge social media following. You're a businesswoman as well. But let's talk about this latest single to start it off with. Let's talk about Top Down. Interesting story. You put out a YouTube video about it. It didn't start off as Top Down. It started off as something totally different for someone else. Talk to us a little bit about what went into making this song.
So I was actually reached out to by a rapper in New Jersey, and his publicist reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love for you to get on a track with him. And I said, okay, sure. So he said, do you have any producers that you prefer to work with? I said, actually, these guys in Providence, I absolutely love. And he was like, all right, let's do it. We got in the studio and we start creating this beat. And it seemed like the rapper was really into it. And we're like, all right, this is going good. And a couple days later, the rapper calls my manager and says, hey, let's meet. And we're like, okay. We didn't know for what. We were supposed to get in the studio that night and finish up this song. And it was called Pause. Totally different title and everything, but it ended up being Top Down. So we sit down with him and he's like, hey, listen, like, I don't like the song. And I was like, well, we're scheduled to be in the studio in a couple hours. Like, wait, what are you talking about? And he was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I don't like it. So I'm out.
Bye.
And I was like, okay. So now he left it on us to go tell these producers, like, hey, all that work you just put in, it's for nothing. So I'm like, all right. So my manager and I, we go to the studio and we tell them what happened. And I said, but you know what? I believe in that song, and let's switch it around and make it a pop song, and let's just show them, you know, that this was actually something that could be something. And it's just funny how that turned into like my first ever major label song. You know, someone who didn't believe in the song, but I still believed in it, and the producers believed in it, and my manager believed in it, and it ended up working out.
And here we are. So you just released this song with Sony Music, but you are able to hold on to some creative freedom with things, and you are able to still maintain some independence. Talk to us what it's like for you to be able to release something with a major music label.
Honestly, it's pretty crazy. The response that I got over the summer when I announced that I'd be releasing it, I had so much support, which was crazy. And to me, like, other things that I've done seem bigger to me, but a major label to the outside world is like, oh, you made it, you know? And that was always like my frame of mind, is that, okay, you need to be on a major label to actually be successful, because all of these huge artists are. But honestly, it's like, it's kind of different nowadays with being an independent artist, because these labels are taking so much that it's kind of a different ball game. So the deal that I got was so perfect, like we were talking about before, because they're not taking as much, and they're also allowing me to have some creative freedom, and I can still be an independent artist with their name behind me. So it's honestly the best of both worlds.
I was going to say, it almost seems a little too perfect.
I know, that's why I didn't believe it at first.
What's the hook? What's the catch?
I know, I didn't believe it at first, but I think they're realizing that we can do it on our own now. We don't need a label. So you can't take as much, because with social media, we can get our music out to the masses for free. We don't have to give you 90%. And I think they're quickly realizing that they could be cut out of the equation. and they have to do something that will make artists still want to work with them.
It's fascinating to learn more and more about the music industry, and you're seeing independent artists continue to thrive, continue to push, and with social media channels, which you have a huge social media following, you've built your brand, you've built your business, you've built your music with the support of fans, with the support of social media. So to be able to do it on your own, and then to get the support from a major music label, that's huge.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other songs that you have. So this is just kind of like the next step for you. You've been doing this all, not really on your own, but on your own, and then obviously with a big supportive team. Let's talk about some of the other songs that you have released. You performed a snippet of Independent Woman. You were here just about a year ago, like we said, performing In My Head. What is it like for you to write some music and to be able to form? What's it like for you to be an artist overall?
Honestly, it's pretty crazy. I hate to say this, but like for my kids, I just hope they're normal, because it's so normalcy is underrated, my mom always says, and it's so true, because as much as I love this industry, it's hard. And especially being an independent artist, it makes it that much harder because you're doing everything. You're booking shows yourself. When you said you're doing this on your own, that was pretty dang true. So you're doing it all on your own, and I mean, obviously it feels good to have a support team now, but I mean, it's pretty crazy. So as much as I love this journey, I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, just because it is a lot harder than it seems. But I'm obsessed with it. I'm the type that, I mean, we were talking about how we kind of get migraines, and honestly, a lot of that for me is because I just go.
Yeah.
And people around me are like, you need to stop, you need to take a break. But when I take a break, I feel like I'm losing out on something. And so I'm like, I get anxious because I feel like I'm not being productive. And I feel like that's how you have to be, though, to be an independent artist, because you have to be doing something all the time to get to that next level, or someone else is gonna go right in front of you.
A little FOMO from you.
I know.
A little bit.
That's right. That is
it might be a little.
I know, I have a problem.
A little bit. Let's talk about what comes next for you. So you performed here, which was super fun, super exciting. Let's talk about the channels that people, if they're interested in getting your music. When it comes to Top Down, music video. So people follow you on YouTube, they follow you on Instagram, they're getting little clips, which might be why you're tired, might be why you're getting migraines. You're up constantly producing all this content, which is so fun, which is so cool. Music video for Top Down, what's the plan for that?
So like we were talking a little bit about before, it's been snowing out, and if I want to do a music video for a song called Top Down in the car in a convertible, I'm not going to be riding around with my top down in the snow. So we're gonna, I'm hoping by mid-April this will be cleared up, it'll be a little green, and we can kind of stay homegrown and do it in my hometown. But otherwise, we might have to kind of switch plans, and if this snow keeps happening, we're gonna have to move it to a different state.
So we're hoping for a Rhode Island music video. So then, do you do that on your own? Does Sony support that? Do they give you some backing? How does that work?
They don't. Yeah, that's another thing about, I mean, it's almost like a too good to be true, but I mean, you're still having to support yourself. So I've actually, it's an important thing as an independent artist to find people on the same level as you, so that you can partner instead of like, hey, let me pay you X amount of money, you do this for me, and then you're gone. Yeah. So I like to really bring people onto my team. So even with videographers, photographers, anyone of that capacity, they come onto my team and we partner. And it's not like, I'm forking over thousands of dollars, but it's something that we go in on together and we both reap the benefits. So
I think that's great, and a lot of people, I'm sure, support you and are willing to partner. Let's talk a little bit about so we just talked a little bit about your music video. Let's talk a little bit about what comes next, because this is kind of a continuing thing. April is going to be very busy for you, so not only the music video, but spring is going to be very busy. So aside from your thriving music business that you have going on, you also have an online boutique business called Sugar Rain, and you're going to be introducing a new line to that, and you kind of have a special partner. So talk to us a little bit about what's coming next with that.
Yeah, so when I was little, my mom asked, she was a stay-at-home mom, so she said she used to just ask me crazy questions when I was little to see my answers. So she said, "Hey Liv, do you know the difference between boys and girls?" And I said, "Yep." And she's like, "Okay, what is it then?" And she said that I told her, "Yep, well, girls have magic powers." And I liked that saying so much. My mom retold me this story recently, and I said, honestly, 2018 is the year of the female. That's my true belief. With Trump, with everything that's happening, I believe that like women are on the rise, and so to have this Girls Have Magic Powers line, the whole premise behind it is kind of to be like, what's your magic power? And so for me, it would obviously be, you know, my music, and I would hope my brain and some different parts of me, and that's kind of how we're gonna market this. So we're gonna have everything from t-shirts to cooking aprons, anything that like pertains to your magic power. So if it's cooking, if it's music, if it's fashion, if it's, honestly, we're gonna have 82 items with this Girls Have Magic Powers line on them, and that will be released in April. So,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
It should be pretty crazy, but I'm excited. And we're actually, every quarter we're giving a percentage to a different charity that has to do with women. So
it sounds excellent. Quite fantastic. Congratulations to you and your mom and all that you're doing. If you're interested in seeing Olivia perform, you can head over to any of our social media platforms and our website, GoLocal Prov. The single is Top Down. You can check it out. We'll have a link to her webpage and her social media platforms as well. So, Olivia, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. We're going to continue Go Local Live in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center here in just a few moments. I'm Molly O'Brien. Olivia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you in a few. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien. I'm joined by Amy Hitzman. She is a co-owner of A&J Bakery in Cranston. They are a dedicated nut and gluten-free facility. Amy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Molly.
Welcome back. You were here with us last year as we were getting ready to celebrate St. Joseph's Day, and guess what? You're joining us again, getting ready to celebrate St. Joseph's Day, bringing us some Zapelas. My question is, do you pronounce it Zapelas or Zeppelas?
I say Zapela, but I'm not a Italian, so.
And I'm not either, so I'll leave it up to you, the experts out there, to correct me. Welcome back, and this is your kind of your mission. This was kind of your baby that you started up this bakery several years ago. Talk to us about where you're at today.
Well, we are almost 11 years in, and we actually are expanding daily. My husband works vigorously daily on changing things, adding new items. Like an example, this plate here is all vegan, not gluten and vegan, cupcakes, brownies, decorative cookies. And he actually this year created some dairy-free Zapelas.
Yes. Yes.
We try to change things up as much as possible, add new items. We just recently ran a ad on our Facebook trying to challenge the customers. What would they like something different? We ended up adding a cheesecake that has brownies infused inside of it, and then a birthday cake cheesecake. So the customers really helped grow that.
Oh my goodness. So it's really all about, for you guys, is making sure that the customers are safe but also satisfied. Like, we should all be able to, whether you have an allergy or whether it's a preference and a choice or whether it's not a choice for you, to be able to have a goodie, right?
Yes. And it's about for us it started with the child coming in and being able to feel normal.
Yeah.
For most people. For myself now I have a gluten and an egg allergy, so like the vegan items are the way I go, and my husband tries to expand that daily so that we have more items for more people to eat and enjoy all at the same time, so no one notices the difference.
I think that's so important too, because especially with kids, having a place to go where you can feel normal, right? I mean, because you want to be able to go and just be able to buy a cookie or to be able to buy pizza dough. I mean, you do that to be able to go, be able just to have a place where you can go and you can feel normal. It's not a big thing.
Yes. And we've started pairing up with some other restaurants, Blackie's Tavern in Lincoln. Yes, Lincoln Smithfield line. They actually have a huge gluten-free line, and they have now started carrying a bunch of our items. We make specific items for them. But for us, it's getting it out there so that people can feel normal. I know the worst part about being gluten and egg-free is going to restaurants and not having anything.
Yeah.
And being very limited to what I can eat, and then it limits where we can go as a family to enjoy a meal out. So having restaurants like Blackie's be willing to help us and offer items to other people is a great joy in a lot of situations.
And it's so nice too to be able to go to a restaurant and then to be able to have something that's locally made, that's allergen friendly, rather than you're just getting some packaged brought in item from who knows where, right? I mean, I think that's what's really neat about it.
I think, that's the best part, I think, is that people have taken faith in what we do and what my husband does daily with believing and trusting that we are gluten-free and that we are nut-free and everything is okay for someone to eat, and that those restaurants that take the locally grown items, per se, they trust that everything is ready to go in the correct way.
So it's safe and tasty.
Yes, tasty is the key.
So this was a process, like you said. It started as a trial. It started for when a child came in, and you started out with nuts were the main concern, and then it kind of expanded and evolved over the past several years to include the 8 main allergens, and kind of went from there. And then recently decided to offer vegan products. Why was that important to you?
Well, to start with, my husband did some of it because of me. Because there's not a lot of items that I can eat. Like, I can't eat our regular cupcakes because they have egg in them. So he changed some things up because of that. But we're noticing more and more customers daily that come in that have different allergens and that need different items. So they look for those items in the store. And for us, it was expanding it so that the gluten and the nut-free person and the vegan can eat all the same items, because I think it's a shame when brides come in and say, I have a gluten allergy, and they say the venue offers a cake, but now I have to buy myself a separate cake, when I always look at it as, why do that when you're the main person? You should be able to have anything you want.
Exactly, especially if it's your special day.
Yes.
You should be able to enjoy as much cake as you want. Let's talk a little bit about the Zapelas, St. Joseph's Day, and you were open last year on St. Joseph's Day. It's such a special item in Rhode Island. When I moved here, I didn't know what they were. I will just blindly admit that. I will say it. I will put myself out there. And then really part of Rhode Island, it's really fun. St. Joseph's Day is a special day here in Rhode Island. Talk about the care and effort that you put into making Zapelas that all people can enjoy.
My husband makes the shells. It is an eclair-based shell, the outside of it. And then he makes boiled cream. A lot of places still use a bucket of cream. We'll buy a pre-processed cream where this is made. He buys the milk, he buys the eggs, he mixes it by hand, and then we end up producing them and making thousands of them on a daily basis. But this year, because St. Joseph's Day is on a Monday, we are actually open this Sunday for the day before St. Joseph's Day to get anyone Zapelas, and we're open on St. Joseph's Day, and we will be extremely busy, but it's buy 6 Zapelas, get 1 free on St. Joseph's Day.
So you might as well buy 6. You
yes.
Get 7, because you're gonna eat them all.
Yes.
Because they're that good. And I noticed that you have some Irish soda bread tomorrow, St. Patrick's Day, so you can come get your Irish soda bread. This looks delicious as well. And then, of course, Easter's coming up. A lot of people, Easter's always a delicious holiday. What are some treats that you have available for Easter?
Well, we make rice pie. We make ricotta pie. We make Big Bunny cookies that are all allergen free. Then we have giant egg cakes that have flowers and decorations on them. We do 2-pound cookie trays for the holidays.
Geez.
So, I mean, anyone can come in and place an order. We take orders until March 24th, and then it's shut off just because the demand is so big that we want everyone to be able to get their items. But we also have breakfast items.
Oh, cool.
Cinnamon buns, Danish. We're the only bakery in the nation that makes a gluten-free Danish.
Wow, really?
So that is a huge item for a lot of people.
Oh my goodness. So you're very busy. And this is just part of what you do. You're also a teacher. Talk to us about how you actually balance everything, because I don't know how you would.
Well, it's a hard balance. Mom, teacher, business owner, wife. There's that balance in there, but I keep going. I don't stop. I never stop. I kind of keep running all day. I just left work and now I'm here. But I love it. I wouldn't look at it any other way.
Do you ever get to see any of your students or any of your coworkers from Davies in?
Yes, lots of them. The other day, some of my new coworkers, they had a Zapala and they couldn't believe it was gluten-free. They were shocked when I said, oh yeah, that's one from the bakery. And they were like, oh, what do you mean? That was because they're not gluten-free people. So
Yeah.
to them, it should taste funny. And I think that attests to a lot of the work that my husband does daily, is that he makes everything here on the table and everything at our stores to taste well. And that no one can know the difference between it.
I think that's so important too. I mean, and I know Kate can speak to this, is that gluten-free products have come quite a long way. And how important that is that to your husband? Just making sure that not only the variety of products, but the quality and the taste of the products, that people wouldn't know the difference, no matter what the allergy is.
That's key. That's one of the driving forces behind everything we do. He doesn't have a gluten allergy. My son doesn't. Our family doesn't. I would be the only one, lucky enough. But that is the driving force, that if everyone else is willing to eat it, then someone with an allergy will be happy with it. And he doesn't settle. When something, we just started making pizza dough, an actual ball of dough that you normally don't see, that's all allergen free.
Oh my gosh.
And that can actually be rolled out and stretched. That people were like, no, that can't taste well. And we have tons of people come running in for that. The Super Bowl, I think we sold around 500 pounds of dough just for people so excited because they could make themselves a calzone. And that just attests to a lot of things that my husband does every day, trying to make it universal for everyone. And most of those people said that they were serving it and it didn't matter that it was that way. They only needed it gluten-free, and they were just going to serve it as regular dough.
That's incredible. I bet that's hard to keep stocked.
Yes.
I don't know how you continuously keep all of this stuff stocked. Do you get special requests? Is there anything that you don't? Because I feel like you can't just make one Zabel or one bunny cookie. You have to fill up certain things. Do you get special requests for certain things, and can you do a special request?
Special requests depending on what it is. A lot of times we will take the request, and most of the time we can make it. Usually it's quantities. Okay. Purchasing a quantity of something. Sometimes we end up changing items, like my husband's going back into making croissants soon. Okay. And he'll be doing chocolate croissant. So some of those things are items that we do that we will leave and not do for a while and then come back to it. And a lot of that comes down to, like you were saying before, the quality of it. My husband trying to make sure that it is all the same and that everyone will want to eat it. So it's just adjusting it. But yes, we take special orders. We do special order birthday cakes, holiday cakes, and all that.
Excellent. So if you're interested, you can visit A&J Bakery. They are located in Cranston, and they will be open. So if you want to get one of these Zapelas, you better hurry up, because I feel like they're going to run out. Kate and I don't eat them all first. Amy Hitzman, thank you so much for joining us here on GoLocal Live, and congratulations on all the fine work that you're doing. I'm going to have to come get some of that pizza dough, I'll tell you that. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, please hang tight here as we get ready for our next guest on GoLocal Live. That was so fun. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here in the Navient Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien. I'm joined by Pete Sebring. He's the owner of Bristol Oyster Bar. Pete, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Molly. It's my pleasure today.
We're excited to have you here. So Bristol Oyster Bar is in the heart of historic Bristol, and so we're going to talk a little bit today about aquaculture in Rhode Island, oysters, and a special event that you have going on. I'd like to start with that. Oyster Madness at the restaurant. I think this is super fun. Unfortunately, Providence College just lost as we work our way through March Madness. But you or I won yesterday, and I heard you're a Rhode Island guy.
I am a Rhode Island.
You're a Rhode Island guy, so that's good news. So this is the second year that Bristol Oyster Bar has done Oyster Madness, kind of a playoff of March Madness. Talk to us a little bit about the event. I think it's super fun, a great idea to get people in and get people excited about oysters if you're not already.
A couple years ago, one of my managers was a big basketball fan, college basketball fan, and he came up with the idea of making a bracket of Rhode Island oysters. And we're a Rhode Island oyster bar in that we deal primarily with Rhode Island oysters. We don't deal with very many out-of-state oysters. So we came up with 16 local oysters, and we set up a bracket, just like a small basketball bracket, and it was a hit. What we did was we'd bring in 8 at a time, and we'd match them against each other, and it was free to the public. The only hook in it was that they had to vote and that they had to eat it with no sauces at all on it. So they got a true taste of what they were tasting, so to speak. But it's been a big hit. Last year, Chesapeake Oyster from Bristol, actually, out on Hog Island, they were the winner. But this year, we may have a new winner. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
Chesapeakes are good, though.
Chesapeakes are very good,
They're
yes.
popular,
Yeah.
apparently.
You know, and they're probably the house favorite too. People seem to like them quite a bit. So.
I'm just going to have you scoot over. I'll scoot over a little bit, too.
Sure.
You don't want to cut your arm off.
No.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. So people can come in. It's a super fun idea. You know, you see people, March Madness obviously is super popular, so you're setting up brackets. Where are the oysters coming from? Are they harvested? You have an oyster farm
Yep.
yourself.
Yep.
Are they harvested from around Rhode Island? What are some, if people are interested, what are some of the ones that people can expect to see?
So most of the oysters in Rhode Island come from one of two places, either the salt ponds on South County or Narragansett Bay itself. My oyster farm's in the Bay. I probably have 5 or 6 of the contestants from the Bay, and the rest of them are all from Narragansett to Westerly and the salt ponds down in that area. But out of the 16, I think it's about a 5 and 11 break for the salt pond oysters. So they're a very good oyster. It's once you've had a few, you can tell the difference between the pond oysters and the bay oysters, and there's pluses and minuses on each. It's a lot like wine. People try different types and decide what they like. It's interesting to see what you think may happen after watching people eat them for a couple years isn't actually what happens. So
It's fun too to be able to see the different pairings and to see how things will all play out. So when people come in, do people ask you a little bit about them, how they're grown, how they taste?
People are always very interested, and one of the other nice things about this event is the growers show up too, and they like to support their own oyster, but they also get in with the crowd and they'll talk to the different folks there and explain how they grow it and why they've done what they've done in their own personal little stories. And last year we had, out of the 16 growers, we had about 10 of them show up at the event at one point or another. So it's fun to see that too. It gives a little different perspective when you can talk right to the oyster farmers.
Oh, definitely. So it all accumulates on April 3rd, I believe. April 3rd, Tuesday, in the Champion Shuck. Love this.
Yeah.
So what happens in the Champion Shuck?
We're down to 2 oysters at that point, and everyone gets their oysters to try, and we make a decision that night. We tally the votes at the end of the night, and if everyone hangs around, we'll see who the winner is and hand out a couple prizes, and it should be a really fun night.
The prize wasn't good enough to just eat some fresh local oysters.
Well,
There's more.
Yeah, there's a prize for the growers, and there's a prize for anyone that get, well, for the closest to a correct ballot.
Okay, so
or bracket.
so to speak. Okay, let's talk about your background and how you got to. So that's the Oyster Madness, and we'll put a link to Bristol Oyster Bar website so you can find out some more information on that. Let's talk a little bit about your background though, because you didn't just pop up Bristol Oyster Bar overnight. Do you have a deep connection to the state, to the Bay, and it's not your only business as well. So let's talk a little bit about how you got to opening up Bristol Oyster Bar and how you got into this is what you wanted to do.
As with many Rhode Islanders my age, I was born and raised in Rhode Island, and I worked on Narragansett Bay about the time I was 12 or 13 coal hogging. It was a big business catching coal hogs when I was younger out on the bay. It's tapered off quite a bit now, but used to be quite a few guys out there back in the 80s and late 70s, and that's where I started. And once I started working on the water, it was very difficult to get off. I worked on fishing boats offshore for a number of years. It got me into the sales end of the industry in New Bedford. I sold fish over there, and then mid 80s maybe to early 90s, there was a big influx of oysters in Narragansett Bay, and I came back and started selling those, and that's what got me into the oyster industry. That lasted maybe 8 or 9 years, and the wild oysters in Narragansett Bay have tapered off, so a lot of guys have started growing them, myself being one, and I've gone into a few different directions from it, but it all started from the oysters in the bay back in the 80s and 90s.
One big loop started with the oysters, and now circling back to the oysters. Let's talk about the aquaculture industry in Rhode Island. Talk about local seafood industry here in Rhode Island. I've learned quite a bit about local seafood from working on the show, from talking to people like yourself. Let's talk a little bit about oysters themselves. How do oysters help our ecosystem here?
Oysters are filter feeders, and they depend on the tides to bring the food to them. They're not a carnivore like fish. They can't go after their prey. So they're on the bottom. They filter. An adult oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water an hour, and they're just pulling out nutrients, but in the process they're also pulling out a lot of nitrates and nitrites and things that are in the water like that. So they're kind of nature's little cleaning mechanism. They're almost like the canary in the coal mine. If there's a good solid population, it's a good indication that your bay is pretty healthy or your water supply is good. So I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. Well, you've grown up here. You've worked on the bay. You've started many businesses. I'm kind of curious because, like you said, canary in the coal mine with the oysters. How have you seen the bay change over the years?
It's gotten better.
Yeah, and what's that like for you to see that
change?
It's
fun to see that. There's a lot of changes. I'd say there's more life out there. I remember as a kid playing in the rivers and in the sand and the mud and digging clams and all that kind of thing. And at the time, I didn't realize that there was big problems with runoff and heavy metals, especially in Providence and things. But I know that since the Clean Water Act in the early 70s, the bay has definitely gotten cleaner and cleaner, and that I'd have to attribute a lot of that to Save the Bay. Actually, they're a huge influence on that. So.
Yeah, they have definitely done an excellent job. So besides the fact that people would be supporting you and your business and the people that work for you, what's kind of your selling point for why people should eat oysters?
They're all natural. They're easy. It's if you come to my restaurant, there's not many people between you and the oyster. I buy directly from the farmers, the ones I don't harvest myself. So there's not a lot of middlemen in between. It helps me hold the price down, helps me ensure high quality product, and it just it helps the local economy more. So I do try right from the beginning. We decided that we would do Rhode Island oysters primarily, and we've tried to stick with that. But it is, you know, the oysters are real healthy for you. You know, there's a lot of possible side benefits. I won't get into all that kind of thing, but there's a lot of reasons to eat oysters. I like them raw.
Yeah, to be honest, I've never had a cooked one. So I was having this conversation with some folks last night, and just talking about my husband and I like to go out. We like to have oysters, whether you have it with a cocktail or a glass of wine, glass of champagne, whatever, and try them. And try Rhode Island oysters, or if we go out on vacation, try to have them from other places, whatever. But it's fun to be able to sit down, to learn about where they're from, to learn about that place, to learn about the people behind the bar who are shucking them, to hear about that. But also, so they were asking me like, well, we don't really like oysters. We don't know. And I tried to explain to them that oysters are, in Rhode Island, this is one thing that you can eat that's good for not only our waters, but it's good for our environment, and it's good for our economy. So it's something that you can do, it's easy, you can go, and it really supports everything overall. So I just think it's something super fun to do, and it can help in so many different ways.
It is nice in that respect. It's a nice reflection on Rhode Island. In a lot of respects, it's like wine. The environment that it grows in will dictate the taste, or a lot of the taste. And you can take two oysters. In fact, on my own lease, if you take an oyster from one side of it to the other, there's a noticeable difference.
Wow.
And that has to do with the depth of the water and what it's eating, because different organisms grow in different depths. Light at one end of my lease, it's about 8 feet. At the other end, it's 24, and the light will penetrate to the bottom, so there'll be a different set of algae growing in that shallow end. So there's an awful lot to it, and it all has an influence in the taste. And that's why you can get 16 Rhode Island oysters. You could probably get close to 100 Rhode Island oysters, and they'd all be a little bit different. So.
And they could all be different. What impacts the size? Does that all depend on the body of water as well?
Yeah, that does. The more nutrients in the water, the quicker it's going to grow. But basically, it's an age thing. There's the size of oysters is getting smaller and smaller all the time, and a lot of that is because the market is a very strong market right now. And there's not a lot of incentive for the growers to grow out to a large oyster when the market is willing to pay the same price, for a smaller oyster. So you are seeing more small ones. They're called petites. And a lot of people that are starting to eat oysters enjoy starting with petites. It's a little easier than eating a giant mouthful. But
a starter, that makes sense. Okay.
But the real oyster lovers seem to like giant oysters, and we try to carry out 1 or 2 types of those also.
I have to ask you this, do you have a favorite particular type or style or flavor?
I have a favorite oyster. It's not mine.
That's okay though.
Yeah, I like the Chesapeakes. I think they're an awesome oyster. They're grown right in Bristol Harbor, and the guy, Kyle Hess, does a really nice job. But to be honest with you, Mother Nature's blessed Rhode Island. All the Rhode Island oysters are really good, and the South County oysters are excellent too. There's a couple down there that are really, really good. So it's interesting. That's why it fuels the fire, so to speak, in our event that we're having, and it makes it fun. And this year there will be someone different, I'm pretty sure, winning. So.
What do you say for people who've never tried an oyster and might be weirded out by the fact that they're eating something raw?
You got to get over that. But it's like a little shot of the ocean. It's just a little splash of salt water. It's almost like jumping in the water and getting a little salt water in your nose or your mouth. Or it's refreshing, and if you can try that first one, most people actually find that they enjoy them. I have a lot of people at the restaurant that try their first oysters there, and they have to work up to it, but once they get there, they do seem to enjoy them most of the time. There are a few people that have just shied away, and they're good sports for trying, but it's not for everyone. But most people do seem to enjoy them if they're willing to try them.
Well, and that's the thing. You just mentioned too. Rhode Island has been blessed. So I mean, hey, why not? It's right here. It's supporting the local economy, and I think that's what's so great is that we do have a lot of local, delicious seafood here. So if you can try it, you might as well. So Bristol Oyster Bar, located in the heart of historic Bristol. Pete Sebring, the owner. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna have to stop in for the oyster madness.
Oh,
It
yeah.
seems like a lot of fun.
Yep.
All right, everyone, we're wrapping up here. And Go Local Live in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien. Kate Nagel kicks things off here in just a few moments with all things news and politics. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a very safe weekend. Happy St. Patrick's Day.